Hi guys, welcome to my top tips for Poomsae improvement. In this one, we are going to work on a number of different techniques and movements and understandings to help you improve your Poomsae, whether it's for your next belt and grading, whether it's to compete or just to get your technique sharper and look better in your art. All these tips are going to be very important. So stay tuned, check them out, and happy training. Welcome guys, we're going to get started with tip number one. My first tip to improve your Poomsae is range of motion. Now range of motion is understanding the start point of every technique, the pathway that that technique travels, and the finish point of that technique. So, for example, if I'm going to perform un monton and maki, from this position here, I have to make sure that I am the correct height for my block, it travels through the correct pathway, and it finishes in the correct spot. So everything is correct with the block, and the technique is sound if you're wanting to use it. So for this example, I start with my hand far back here, and my hand is going to be the same height as my ear. I'm going to use both arms for this technique, and this will make more sense when you look at my other tips on speed and power. So from here, my range of motion is to bring my hand all the way across, bring my elbows close to my body, and then rotate in front of my body. So everything is down the center here, and my hand and fingers are shoulder height. So that is my range of motion for that technique. Set up here, pathway through here, and finish point. You need to understand this with all of the moves you're going to be performing in your pattern. So it might take a little bit of time to go through that, but once you understand each start point, it's really important to set it up. So my next tip as part of this one is your counting. Each pattern has a certain amount of moves. For instance, if we're looking at Iljang, we have first move, we have second move, okay, third move, fourth move. Most people will count it like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. What I want you to start thinking about is putting the word "and" in front of the number. For me, when I'm counting, I say "and 1", "and 2". This helps me to understand that the "and" is where I am relaxed and where I'm setting up my move. So for instance, in the same pattern, I will go "and 1", and 2, and 3, and 4. So when I'm moving, I'm always setting up my technique. Now each technique is going to be slightly different. So having the "and" before the number will help you visualize and go through the setup for each of those moves. Whether it's your lower block, whether it's your body block, okay? Each of these is really important you go through that. The other side of what I do when I'm counting is make sure I do what we call like a half step. So from here, my half step at the beginning doesn't really count because my feet are in the correct position. I'm just going to move this and turn my foot. But my next move, when I say "and" for my punch, my setup is to bring my lower block hand up slightly to my belt. My hand is going to retract back to my belt as my other hand goes to punch. So when I'm going through my "and" setup, my foot is going from this position all the way through the walking stance here, but it has to travel past my other foot. So everything comes together here. My foot is there on "and", my elbow is nice and tight, and my other elbow is coming through. So both my elbows are going to touch my body at the same time, and from this position, they both rotate. Okay, so I'd be here, and 1, and 2, and 1, and 2. So you can see now the technique looks much sharper, and trying to get everything to finish at the same time. Okay? Train that in the pattern that you're doing now. See how you go with the counting, and hopefully you can get everything to start working together. Check out my next video on tip number 2, and we'll see you soon.